Hello, Revere, and welcome to the Revere Veterans and Community Show. Today I have three great guests. I have Colonel Richard Moody, who's the director and founder of Operation Troop Support of 13 years ago, a Vietnam veteran and an Iraqi freedom veteran. Colonel, thank you for coming and thank you for your service, sir.
Thanks for the invite, Morris.
On his left, I have Rick Labadini, who's a community volunteer veteran. Thank you for coming, Rick.
Thank you, Morris.
And on his left, I have the beautiful Pamela Anderson, who everybody in Revere knows, who's also a community veteran volunteer. Thank you for coming, Pammy.
Absolutely.
Before we start the show, 13 years ago, you founded Operation Troop Support. So
That's
give us
right.
a little history of it, please.
Okay, Morris. The setting of 13 years ago was kind of interesting because I had served in Desert Storm. And of course, as most people know, that was only about 2 months long when I was over in Saudi Arabia at that time. And so our daughter called when she was in Iraq 13 years ago in March, and she asked if we could help send care packages to the soldiers in her unit who weren't getting anything. So my wife and I started that, and we figured it would be probably another 2 months because that was what Desert Storm was. And that was 13 years ago, and we're still going strong now.
Colonel, excuse me, was that under General Norman Schwarzkopf at the time?
No, yes, it was.
It was? Okay.
Under General Schwarzkopf.
Did you ever meet him?
I met him personally, yes. I flew with him, as a matter of fact.
Hey.
So after our daughter called home, my wife and I started to collect care packages, and she was a combat medic and served in the hospital. A few months after that, our son went over as a military policeman, and we asked him if he and his unit needed any packages. And he said absolutely, they didn't have very much, so we started to send to the desert as well. And over the years, we've developed more and more volunteers. As people sent their sons and daughters over there, they found out about us, they contributed. And as of the latest date, 13 years later, we have sent over 500,000 care packages to the war zone, to the hospitals, and to other places in the world, not just the combat theater. It's a rewarding experience. We get tremendous help from the community, and unfortunately we have to pay our own postage, which is about $1,000 a week, but donations seem to help us out. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, I got two. If people would love to help you and send donations, could you tell them how to do it?
Yes, I can. We run the program out of 16 Trinity Street in Danvers, and we have a website that I would encourage everybody to take a look at, and that's www.operationtroopsupport.org. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. That's why the .org is attached. You will see on the website the list of things you can volunteer and donate. You'll also see addresses to send the packages to. If anyone would like to contribute a monetary donation for the postage, that would be wonderful. All of our volunteers are strictly volunteers. Any money we get in goes directly to the postage, and that's probably the best way for you to communicate with us.
That's great. Now I gotta ask you before we did. You have two people on your left, Mr. Labadini and Mrs. Anderson.
Yes, I do.
They drove me down to Operation Troop Support that you had over at General Patton's home.
That's correct. We have periodic get-togethers not only to do public care package packing events and Christmas wraps, but we also have social events which spurs on the spirit and the morale of all the volunteers. Was it last Saturday or the Saturday before? We had an OTS day at the Patton Farm up in Hamilton, and both Rick and Pamela joined us that day. Mrs. Joanne Patton was the host. She provided food, entertainment, and it was just a good camaraderie experience. And you came along, Morris, and I was thrilled to have you three there.
It was an honor to be there, Colonel. It was an honor to meet you again. Certainly it was an honor to meet Mrs. Joanne Patton. Rick, you came to me. I have to tell you about this gentleman, folks. He came to me about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't know him, and he came over to me. He says, you know, I see you on TV doing a veteran show, and I like to volunteer to help the community and the veterans. And I says, well, the one you have to see is Mr. Nick Boer. So, Rick, why don't you take it over?
Well, I saw you at being recognized actually at one of the Revere City Committee meetings for your volunteerism and what you do in the city of Revere for the veterans, and it inspired me, and so I introduced myself to you and asked how I could get involved, and you had given me Nick's number. And I called up Nick and asked him, you know, what can I do? What can I get involved with? And, you know, the food bank wasn't going at that time. And then a couple months later, the food bank started. And once a month, we put together, it's about 2 tons of food is donated from the Greater Boston Food Bank, and we go there and we separate it and we put it into bags so that the veterans in Revere can come and pick them up, and I've been part of you know, volunteering for them, and through you, I don't know if you remember that there was a parade in Lynn that Nick Boole was being
That's right.
recognized.
Yep.
And I took you to that, and you introduced me to this gentleman, Dick Moody, and I, you know, I got in contact with him, and been with them ever since, you know, doing anything that I can.
Right, Rick. You got a very good memory. See, age makes no difference.
Boris, I'd like to interject something about Rick.
Please do.
Like Rick says, we met at that particular event, and keep in mind that we operate out of Danvers, and Rick has volunteered himself to come up whenever we have packages that need to go to the post office, packages that have been packed for the soldiers. I can call him on a moment's notice. He shows up at my door, takes care of all the packages, never a complaint. He says, I wanted to do it. I feel like I'm taking care of an obligation to my country. And there aren't many people like Rick Labadini
You can
around.
say that, Colonel.
And I am so happy to have him on the team.
And I'm so happy to have him in Revere to do everything he does, because he helps me tremendously. So, Rick, thank you.
Oh, it's an honor. It's an honor.
And
Thank
on his
you.
left, we have the beautiful Pamela Anderson from the city of Revere. Now, she does 1,000,001 things, Pamela, but since we're going to be talking about a little Operation Troop Support, please tell us about it.
All right, so I actually met Dick Moody through Rick, which is like 3 years ago now.
At least, yeah.
Yes, we started working on actually the parade committee. Then we started talking. He was telling me about a packaging that he was going to, and I was like, I want to come too. And so ever since then, I've been working with them, and it's always a pleasure to be there. It's always fun. Everybody's in a great mood. It's for a great cause. You know, I wish we could send less, because that means more of our troops are home instead of over there. And then now I work with the veterans and with you as well.
Right, and I see you have in front of you a bunch of cards that we sent to the troops.
Yes, these cards going to be given to Dick Moody. These have already been filled out. I took a few of them to the senior center the other day, and they want to get going on it very quickly. So I had them do a few of them. So these are the ones to already go out to our troops.
That's wonderful. And since they want to do a little bit more, I'm going to give you some more. I've got boxfuls of them.
And I appreciate that, because I'm working with Morris right now, and on November 15th at, I believe it's 12:30.
Tuesday.
Yep, it's a Tuesday from 12:30 to 2 o'clock. We're actually gonna, I'll be in there for Operation Troop Support, and we're gonna set up the tables. We're gonna do cards. We're gonna make sure our DJ over here has the Christmas music going, and a few other little goodies to go along with that too. It's just not for the seniors. It's for anybody who would like to come down and help us. You know, fill out these cards and give a little note to our troops. You know, to show that you support them, you know, even in the time of Christmas when they can't be home with their families.
Right. So we'd love to have them, the whole city come down November the
Absolutely.
15th.
We will never turn away anybody. We always say more the merrier. So please join us.
And
We
the
appreciate
address,
that.
Pammy, tell them the address where it's at.
At the senior center. I don't know the address.
25 Winthrop Avenue, Revere, Mass. Right across, right down Winthrop Avenue.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, Colonel, people ask me, what do I write on the cards? And I told them, thank you for your service. And what is the proper thing that you would like to see? If you, in other words, that you would like the people to write on the cards for the troops?
What we ask of folks, and Pamela, you did this right, what we ask is if you have a card, it's in the envelope here, but if you have a card, you could write a note to the soldier, any appropriate note as far as we're thinking of you, come home soon, we pray for you every day,
God bless
thank
you,
you for
and all
serving
that.
your country, God bless you, things like that. And then we ask you to put the card in the envelope and don't seal the envelope and leave it blank. The reason we ask you to leave it blank is because we will take a series of these cards, put them in some of our gifts that we send overseas, and our point of contact gets our box and distributes the gifts to the soldiers in his or her unit. He will also take the bag of cards that we've got with an elastic, and he'll know the names of the girls and the guys in his unit, and he'll put their name on each envelope and give it to them so they have what they consider a personalized holiday card. That's why we say fill out the card, but leave the envelope blank so we can have our contact make it a little bit more personal.
That's
And
great.
that's the way we do it.
You always have the wrapping for the holidays, but you also do it all year long. It's not just Christmas and for the cards. I mean,
No, you're right.
from January to December.
Well, we have two programs. We have a care package program that we do all year round, and we do about 150 care packages every single week. And they go to the soldiers in the combat theater as well as the soldiers recovering in the combat support hospitals. And that may be in the war zone, it may be other places. We send to Walter Reed, we send to Bethesda, we send to the Burn Center down in San Antonio. And because we're on the World Wide Web, we get donations in almost every day. I got a huge 17 large boxes from a school in North Dakota the other day. Wyoming sent us a whole bunch of things to send out. That's why we have to keep the pipeline going. I would try to do a little ad right here and say that if anybody listening has a soldier who is overseas deployed at this moment, or you know they're going, try to get their mailing address to us so that we can immediately send care packages to them. And then the other side of our program is the Christmas program that you're talking about.
Right.
And we do that starting about in July, Christmas in July. We do it early and then continue through the end of November, only so that we can get enough gifts to give to the thousands of troops that are over there. You know, there's 250,000 troops in the service deployed today. 5,000 of them are in Iraq alone, and we need to continue to show them that our homeland cares.
Right. The address that I have here is 16 Trinity Street, Danvers, Mass. The only thing I'm missing is a zip code.
01923.
01923.
That's right.
And exactly what is this, the things that you would like the folks to send to you? By the way, this goes from here to California, to Hawaii, to Alaska. So all you people out there, including the Eskimos, don't be bashful. Send us anything you want.
Okay. Well, for our Eskimo friends, I need to tell you that we do need to keep things that are non-perishable, even though it may be cold up there. It's not cold down in Iraq or Afghanistan. What we're looking for is non-perishable food items. And smaller food items such as energy bars, peanuts, pretzels, popcorn, this time of year, candy and cookies. If you go into Shaw's or Demolus or Star Market, you will find the 6 or 8 packs of Mott's applesauce. That is wonderful. Or mandarin oranges, or cup of noodles. things that are on the shelf in the stores that can be broken up and put in individual care packages. That means the world to our soldiers. I've been to Iraq. When it came time for me to eat, I took one of these envelopes called Meals Ready to Eat, MREs, opened it up, and I ate it. And I'm not going to say it was good or bad, but boy, if I had some Mott's applesauce or some mandarin oranges, I'd go for those too. So that's kind of what we're looking for food. They always need toiletry items, smaller, not the great big ones. We need the small individual sizes of shampoo, of soaps, of bug repellent, tanning, sunscreen, things like that. And the guys and gals always need socks, and then paperback books, decks of playing cards, things that they can do when they're off duty.
Right.
So that, and all of that is on our website, but that gives you a summary of it.
Colonel, I would like you to thank two people, if I may, that you might know in the city of Revere. One is Nick Boo. I'm sure you know Nick. The other one is Lois Diamond. I don't know if you know Lois Diamond.
I know both of them very, very well.
Well, Lois retired, but she's coming back on October the 24th, and she used to make, well, she will do it again, blankets, hats for the helmets, for under the helmets.
The helmet liners, right?
Right. And she does a fantastic job. 18 years she's been with the Senior Center for the Veterans. So I would like you to give Nick a big thanks and Lois a big thanks.
Well, I'm going to save Nick for the end, but I will say something about Lois. I've known Lois for quite a few years. I know that she's put together the helmet liners and the
Right.
blankets. I've come down and picked them up. I wish I had the opportunity to share some of the thank you notes that I get from the soldiers in the front. When they get these little blankets, when they get the helmet liners, and let me tell you, January, February, it's very cold over there at night. And those helmet liners, not only do they keep them warm, but they protect their head. And Lois has done such a wonderful job for her community and for the United States as a whole. I don't know whether she appreciates it as much as these soldiers tell me. Wonderful, wonderful lady.
And I want to mention one more wonderful, wonderful lady, Nick's secretary, Donna Dreesen. Tell us about her.
Donna and I go way back. Donna and her husband Steve, they give us so many gifts. They collect the items from the people of Revere. They drive up to my home, they drop them off, and no matter what I ask them to do, they're there to do it. They're the most unselfish, caring people. And that leads me up to Nick. Now, Nick is a personal friend of mine. He is above and beyond what a true veterans agent would ordinarily do. The people in Revere love him. I love him. His sister lives in my hometown. I know her very, very well, and therefore Nick comes to a lot of our functions himself. I've never seen a more caring, sincere veterans officer than Nick Boer. And I will tell you folks, if you have a problem in your community and you are a veteran, you call Nick, it'll be taken care of. He's a wonderful human being.
Right. Now, I like to do a little human interest story with you.
Sure.
I met you about 5-6 years ago at the American Legion. It was a Memorial Day.
Just about, right.
I never knew you before
Story
then, and
is
we
funny.
started talking, and when you said you came from Danvers, I said, my daughter lives in Danvers. And when I mentioned the name, why don't you take it over from there?
Well, I never quite understood why anybody would call himself Morris, and that kind of caught me off guard. But when we started to talk a little bit, we found out that my wife, Christine, for years was a home daycare provider. And when you told me you were from Danvers, or
No, my
we were from
daughter's
Danvers, and your daughter was from Danvers, it got me to thinking. And when I found out a little bit more about what your names were, then I said, by any chance did you know, and I mentioned your daughter's name, and you said, yes, she's my daughter. And I said, well, my wife took care of both of her daughters
Right.
for years. And it was quite a coincidence because we loved those two girls. They were wonderful girls. And to find out that they were related to you was a real surprise.
It was a shock to me, too.
That was a great thing, great thing.
Colonel Moody, what would you like to see Operation as it expands into the future? I mean, what do you see ahead for Operation Troop Support?
It's a good question because right now we are actually so large as far as our commitments go. I am in the process, in fact, I'm going to a meeting tonight. I am in a process of reevaluating and realigning some of our functions. It gets to the point that you can't handle everything with the existing staff, so we need to expand, and that's what we're going to talk about
Right.
tonight.
You know what I would like to see before you leave here? If you could spend just about 3 minutes, to make a scroll and just tell them what you do, just a brief synopsis, and they'll put it on the air here, and it runs all year long, and it goes all over the country and the world. I think you'll be doing good.
As far as the types of work that we do,
Right, and where people
Sure.
can send the donations and the addresses and everything.
Sure.
Because sometimes people tune in later to see the show. They might not see this because it only runs a few weeks,
Right.
but your scrolls are there all the time. So that would be like a continuous thing. That would help you, and make it good for the veterans overseas. And I believe there are over 100 countries that we have troops in.
that's correct. There's a little bit more than that. And the question is, first thing is our mission is really fourfold. One is care packages. That's our primary basic mission. Send care packages to the soldiers each day. The second one is our family support group, because a lot of people forget that even though the soldiers may come home, their families are at home and they may need some questions answered. It's not so much like a Gamblers Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. It's to give the people information that once their loved one comes home and maybe he's exhibiting some traumatic stress points, we give them the telephone numbers of where to call. Our next mission is the Christmas program. We send new Christmas gifts to our soldiers every year. Excuse me. And then I have an outreach function where I come to things like this, or I talk to a community. I'll go to a Rotary Club or a Scout troop or something like that, a church, and talk to them to tell them that helping the soldiers is not yesterday's news. If you're a parent and you have a loved one overseas right now, it's happening today, and we need to tell them what they can do to make their waiting a little easier.
I would like to ask you a question. Since you do it all year long, but just on Christmas, what's the cutoff date, the last date that people can donate so you can mail a package to make sure it gets there by Christmas?
That's a good question. We usually target the last week in November. If we can get all the packages in by the end of November, that means we can get them out by the end of the first week in December. And more than likely, the packages will reach their destination.
Do they go by boat, by plane, or boat? Or both.
When you get a package, when you get an address overseas, it's either an APO, which is an Army Air Post Office,
Right.
or an FPO, a Fleet Post Office.
Oh.
All the APO addresses go out of New York. That's by plane. All the FPO goes out of San Diego, and that's by ship. And we have to send it from our location to New York or to San Diego. So that depends on how long it's going to take.
Right, sir. And you have to pay the postage yourself for all those packages?
Yes, we do.
How come, I don't want to be nosy, but why doesn't the federal government do something about that?
Well, you need to ask the federal government that, but I will tell you that the postage we spend is for our place here in Massachusetts to the port.
Oh, you don't pay for it
So
overseas?
once it gets to the port,
Right.
either in San Diego or New York, it goes on to government.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's only...
Which is a little bit better, but it's still, like I say, almost $1,000 a week.
Okay, we got 3 minutes left, so, Pammy, I'm going to give you a minute. Tell us a little about yourself, what you've done.
I do a lot of volunteering throughout the city with our seniors and our veterans, also with the Kiwanis. Getting ready to join the League of Special Needs in next week.
By the way, I attended that thing, and you did an excellent job for the special needs. I mean, you take me places where I never would have gone, but you do a great job. And especially, I have to say this at our Revere Senior Center. On behalf of the seniors, thank you.
I thank everybody too for letting me come in and, you know, making them smile as much as they make me smile. So I have to thank them too. It's, oh, like I said, I'm very fortunate that I don't have to work because of my honey. And I love giving back to my community,
And we love to have you.
especially our seniors and our veterans.
And my friend, Mr. Labadini,
Well,
good luck.
I just do volunteer work in the city where I can. The veterans are most important for me. You know, Revere Veteran Services and also Operation Troop Support. And it's just an honor to be part and to do what I can to be involved with both great organizations.
Right, Rick, and thank you on behalf of the veterans. And I am a World War II veteran, so I want to thank you both. Colonel, we got a minute and a, just leave me 15 seconds.
Okay, I'll leave you 15 seconds.
Go ahead.
I spent 23 years in the United States Air Force. I served in Vietnam. I served in Desert Storm. As a contractor, I went back to Iraq in 2005. While I was over there, both my son and my daughter were stationed there, which was very difficult for my wife at home. I will tell you that since I've been on the front lines and since I've been a parent at home, I would give anything to be on the front lines and not worry like I worried at home with my kids there. But because I know what the feeling is like, I vowed that we would continue to serve as much as we could in as major capacity as we could. That's why we do this. That's why we're constantly reaching out, asking for help in donations and effort. And thank you for having me on the show, Boris.
Right, I want to say it was an honor for me, an honor for the Revere TV to have you, Pamela Anderson,
my
you, Rick
honor.
Labadini, and most of all, you, Colonel. It was an honor, and thank you for your service again.
Thank
God
you,
bless all of you. God bless our troops and military
Amen.
serving and
Amen.
those who have served. But most of all, God bless our great country, the United States of America. And
Hoorah.
thank you. And one more thing, and I always say this before we close, make sure the Pledge of Allegiance stays in the school. And when the national anthem is played, please stand up if you can. If you can't, no problem, but please stand up if you can. Thank you all.